Kathryn,
Hello.
hand over to you to talk about adult social care at Blackburn with Darwen. And I'm going to stop
Okay,
sharing because you're going to start sharing.
lovely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Somebody just wave at me when they can see my adult social care slide. Yeah, brill. Yeah, hi, I'm Kathryn Halton. I'm the web content lead for Blackburn with Darwen Borough Council. I work with Sarah Quinn, who is also on this call. She's my content designer. She'll probably be waving at you now. Sarah does all the really hard work, so I can't take credit for a lot of it. We're just going to talk quickly through the content transformation piece that we did for our adult social care, which seems like quite a long time ago now. It actually went live about January time, I think, this year. The reason why we wanted to look at adult social care was because that was our adult social care homepage. When I started at the council in 2022, that was kind of what we were dealing with. I've dealt with social services myself on a personal level, been to lots of social services homepages and had no clue where to go to get help. As we all know, it's a really complex issue. Everybody's got specific, unique, individual needs. So we wanted to look at transforming that piece of content, that content area, to make it much more usable, easy to navigate, useful, and used. So the first thing that we always do when we're doing a content transformation piece is we do a content audit. It is a bog standard spreadsheet. There's nothing fancy about it. We need to know what we're dealing with before we start to transform anything. So we just got the page titles, the URLs, are there phone numbers on the pages, are there email addresses, internal and external links, readability levels, so we will get the readability score for that content and put that in there as well, so we've got a full picture of what content we're dealing with. You'll notice on the content audit spreadsheet, if you can see it, this absolute quality piece of content was right front and center of our homepage: deprivation of liberty safeguards, dolls. And if any member of the public knows what that is, then I think they should be applying to go on the chase. So we did a full content audit. After that, we did our content keyword research. Again, we do this for every piece. So we go through and we look at what adults, keywords people are putting in to look for the content that's serving up adult social care related content on our website. We need to make sure we're using the language of the customer, and that's what this exercise helps us to ensure. We also look at other examples of what we think are best practice in terms of other local councils. We always do a scoot round all the LGD sites and looked at their adult content to see if there were good ideas that already existed out in the wild. And that kind of concluded the analytical audit part of the project. One of the most important things for us is the user research. So we have our own user research team. It's really, really important because we can never make assumptions about how people want to use our content, what they think the existing content is like. We never make assumptions. We always go out and ask. So we spoke to 58 people. We've only got one user researcher who kind of goes out to speak to individuals personally. He managed to cover 58 residents and professionals, and we went through a range of people. So we speak to the people answering the telephones in the town hall. We went to organisations like the Carers Service and spoke to different groups of people there. We got to coffee mornings. We go to Derwent Hall, which is like an adult social care daycare facility. We have a list of people who are carers, so we can go through those. We use all different sorts of avenues to go and speak to people. So we did all that user research, and really briefly, these were some of the things that came back. People weren't able to find the right information. They can't understand the information when they find it. There wasn't enough information on a social care assessment, for example. Who does it? How long is it? How long is it? What pages are you supposed to be completing? We looked at how people navigated the content. So people use search engines. 13% would prefer to use Google to find the information they wanted. Again, all of this helps to inform how we build the site once we start building. People who found the website difficult to navigate, couldn't find the details they needed, didn't like the wording, thought the wording was scary, thought that we would benefit from using bullet points, etc. We have to remember our audience for a lot of adult social care. They're not generally the people that require the help themselves. They tend to be friends and carers of that person. So we try to target those kinds of people in our user research as well. A lot of people say call customer services because my site's not very good. I don't like web chat. It's easier for me to phone somebody up, etc. So there's a whole raft of user research that went on. Once we'd got that user research, Sarah and I then ran a workshop with staff from adult social services, and that's to kind of then get their point of view around what they're expecting their web content to deliver. So we asked them questions around what are people going to come to the website for? What questions might they be asking? What are the top features you want? Is there anything you don't want? Is there any special functionality, etc.? We talk about design and branding with them. And then we talk about customer journeys, because we always come up with customer journeys because it helps to focus when you're doing a workshop with staff. It helps them to focus their minds and to put themselves in the shoes of the customer rather than looking at the web content from a service point of view. So we always come up with customer journeys. We've got a few there. We always try to develop a persona. So this might be somebody who comes to use the website. This is what her needs are. This is what her goals are. And these are the challenges that she's got. And obviously, as I say, all of that feeds into the web content that we create. So once we've done all that, and we've done a big card sorting exercise with the staff, and we've had lots of conversations, lots of user research, we go away and we build a new taxonomy, and that's the new structure for the site. And people had told us they wanted simple language and they wanted images, and so with all the user research and everything, that's what we came up with. What we do from there is we then look at what we've got available to us in the system in LGD, and we will put a template together of a page. So Sarah and I then work together to come up with a standard structure. So this was a standard structure for a landing page within the adult section. We knew that we were going to have obviously a title to describe the topic of the page. We knew we were then going to use a media with text paragraph type with a coloured background, put the image at the top, put the intro information underneath. We then knew that we wanted to use a series of box links listings in a grid style with images, and to set those up for the sub landing pages for the section. What we also do from that as well is we then go on to create word templates, because when we're trying to gather the content in from the staff themselves, it really helps to be as prescriptive as possible with what you're getting them to write, and to help them to write in that kind of most important first to least important. Getting content out of staff is one of the things that we find the most difficult. So try to lead them by the nose as much as we can. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we had was an adult social care directory. So part of the workshops that we did with staff was to look at the filters for the directory and the wording, and how we would set the directory up, what would be the criteria for being an entry in the directory, etc. As you can see, I think we nicked some stuff from Milton Keynes there. But again, we're always looking at examples of other good content. So all of that was done before we ever went near creating any content. So then we started the site build. So we can have a look now, I think, at what it looks like in the wild. Skip verification for that. Hang on. Oh, can we see that? Is it
Something is loading. Yes,
just
I
a
can
bit
see a
slow?
portion.
Yeah,
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 now
yeah.
it's full screen.
Right, okie doke. So now this is the new Adults and Health homepage. We've got a really simple, plain English explanation of what social care services is, what it can do for you, and a little bit of information about financial support. That came out as one of the biggest things that people wanted to know about, and actually the biggest chunk of content that was missing from our site. We've then got, as you can see from the template, these are now recreated. We've got plain English titles. On the old site, this section was called Safeguarding. It's now called Worried About Yourself or Someone Else. You'll click through to that and you'll get, and it's standard content across the site. You'll get a picture with a plain English short explanation of what that section is about. And then we get box links listings without images of the different sections of content. It's the tone of voice. We took a lot of care with that to make it sympathetic, not overbearing or too highbrow or too counsellor. And then you'll go through to a page of content. The content's written there, and any online forms are linked. And again, we've tried to keep the pages short, succinct, to the point, just with the information that you'll need at the time at which you'll need it. Get social care help. That kind of explanation around what an assessment was and how to get one was sorely missing from the last site. And each individual section is set up like that. We have a target operating model of kind of helping to help yourself, needing a little bit of extra help and support, and then needing that longer term, more intensive care and support. And so the content is kind of modeled around that as well. So if you look at extra help and support, again, we've got a simple explanation. We've got equipment to help you at home. We've got changes that we can make to your home. Rather than it being called disabled adaptations, which links back to the keyword research that we did. People were searching for an individual handrail or stairgate or that sort of thing. So the language has been reflected in that all the way through. And then the other thing we developed was the Adults and Health Directory, which I talked about. So that's got filters there. So we've got a lot of support. We've got carers. There's loads of people out there who are carers who don't even realise they're carers. That was a really important part for us. We've got healthy living and leisure. We've got housing, money advice and benefits, social care, specific needs and disabilities. All of these entries, if we just click on one, we'll just click on Age UK. Has a very short entry saying this are the services that they offer, how you access those services. If there's a link out, we link out because we don't want to replicate information that they may then go out of date. And then we developed a suggest and edit function. So if Age UK themselves spot an issue with that entry, they can click on suggest and edit, and they can say, yes, we are the owner of this listing, and they can tell us what's wrong with that individual entry. And that helps us to try and keep the directory up to date. So that's the other thing that we did. We've got an area for professionals and providers, which is working really well. So obviously we're working across organisations like NHS, healthcare professionals, third sector providers. So there's a lot of information in there that they can come to the website and know that all the information's there and available to them. So once we'd done all that, we went live in about January. And then during the build, we had drop-in sessions with staff so they could come and look at the work as it was going along. And then we went back out and did some more user research. So we went back out, we got people to look at the subheadings. The feedback is much more positive than the feedback we got before we transformed the content. So the headings are clear and bold, the main titles make sense, the way it's been written is in plain English and it's easy for me to understand, it's easy for me to identify what I'm looking for. Some of the feedback was, I'm not sure about the title of that heading. So based on that feedback, we revisited it, made some changes to content, some changes to headings, reshuffling headings around, etc. But this was the feedback that we got. So words that older people are familiar with. First time I've seen the new webpage, you've used simple words and sentences, etc. And I think that's me in a nutshell. Am I all right for time on that?
Oh, beautiful, Kathryn. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. That was
So,
great.
obviously, I'm not a techie by any means, so you will always get a more content-based presentation from me. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, well, let's take some questions now, then we can come on to Ben's. So we're sort of going with the flow. I had one. I think it's entirely reasonable that you'd be talking about content at the content meetup, Kathryn. So that's okay.
Good.
My only, just to start off with, my only question as you were talking was, you said you did a bit of like go out there and look at other LGD sites, and did you find any that sort of were helpful?
I'd have to look
Yeah, you
at my
might not remember
spreadsheet,
because
Aaron.
I know it was a while. I know it was a while ago. Yeah, you mentioned milking keys a little bit later with the directory.
Yeah, we looked at. I think Sarah's looking for me now. I can pop them in the chat when we find them. But we always have, as part of our content audit spreadsheet, we've got a sheet for the content itself. We've got a sheet for, we might use Google Trends to look at language and things like that, sheet for the keywords, and we'll always have a little sheet for examples of good practice. We look at Essex quite a lot. Yeah, I'm just looking there. We looked at Redbridge, we looked at Dorset, we looked at Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire's front door was rated outstanding in the latest CQC inspection, so we kind of look for things like that.
Okay.
And you know, there's no point reinventing the wheel entirely if there's bits you can take from other sites.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting. So you mentioned actually that they were quite a lot of those are non-LGD sites, which is fine because the content, it's a content as much as
isn't
anything,
it?
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maria, you've got your hand up. Hello.
Hello. I was just looking, you were sharing, thank you for sharing that, by the way. You went quite quickly, so I was reading some of those user research things, and then you went to the next. I wanted to, that's that gold dust. But no, I was just looking, and I've put it on my screen. So like, for example, that safeguarding page, worried about yourself or someone else.
Yeah.
You've got these full width buttons that take you to another page. What paragraph type is that? Is that something you've got bespoke, or is that something just out of the box?
No, it's just a box links listing, isn't it, Sarah? But without an image.
Is it?
Oh. Sarah's my content design expert sitting next to me. So she's
Sarah's currently clicking edit and then
she is
going through the
How did you know? How did you know?
Cool. No, I'll have a look. I didn't know to do that.
It's a box listing, but it's displayed as boxes rather than a grid. So that gives you that across.
Is that an option in the paragraph type you can display as grid or list?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering that as well. And my other thought actually was that I was initially expecting it to be an accordion, actually, just because the way it's sort of presented.
Yeah, me too.
Did you have any feedback?
Well, I did. I thought it was going to open up.
Yeah. And maybe that's not part of the user testing that you had, because you were maybe testing on the content more than the design. I don't know. Did you have any feedback on that?
Nothing specific. Sorry, Kathryn, I'll jump in.
No.
We do use accordions in other places on the website, but I think in terms of this, where there's quite a bit more content to it rather than just perhaps a couple of paragraphs. I think it's needed its own page.
Yeah.
Rather than an accordion.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, you can see we went to, where did we go get social care help? There's a lot. Yeah, a lot of information. Caroline, hello.
Hello. Yeah, the only thing I might mention about that, because we've done user testing on accordions which look pretty similar, and the previous and next buttons at the top of the page. And one thing that cropped up is that users that use magnifying tools on their screen prefer content that kind of scrolls down rather than scrolls across. So I think the fact that like you've got a line of text which shows what page that's going through, but the arrow is over to that side. If they've magnified the screen, they might not see the arrow. So I would suggest maybe just a little bit of user testing on that, just in case, specifically with people who use screen magnifiers, just to make sure that they notice that there's more information by clicking on the arrow.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks, Caroline. Does anybody have any other questions? Oh, I had one more, Kathryn, and then you might have said it and I wasn't paying attention. You ended up using a sub-site for this, right?
Yeah.
So you moved from a standard sort of service landing page model to adult social care as a sub-site. You went very image-led, which I think was came up in your user research, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you do any need to do any customization of the sub-site, like any custom development? I know you've got an in-house developer, haven't you? So you might have done.
Yeah, we've got an in-house developer. We didn't do much, did we? So,
I think the only thing is that the sub-site extras module wasn't working properly for us at the time. So our developer's done some custom, what do we call it? I'm looking at him over.
Just a bit of custom styling.
To be able to get different colour schemes in and things like that. But
the theming,
the theming,
Okay, but other than that, right, okay. It's a shame that didn't work straight away for you. Okay, interesting. Cool, thank you. Does anybody else have any? Sky, hello. I don't know if you're speaking. I can't see. You might be muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I was just wondering kind of what you've done maybe in terms of accessibility. So maybe having print page functionality, or maybe having boxes for how people can access information in other ways like Braille or large print, or maybe in terms of whether you kind of have maybe for strategies and things, if you have any kind of easy read versions and maybe how you went about that. Or I'm not sure if that was kind of covered under the scope of what you were doing.
Yeah, that wasn't really covered under the scope of what we're doing for this transformation project. We've got a ReachDeck accessibility toolbar on the website, which allows for translation of content and for content to be read aloud. But in terms of kind of access to documents in specific formats, we've not really looked at that. What we've tried to avoid any kind of lengthy documents on there. So in terms of any big PDFs, we would turn those into HTML publications, so they'd be broken down into smaller chunks of content anyway. But no, the Braille or the Easy Read, we haven't looked at that yet. No.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sky. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll come on to Ben. Cool. Okay. Thank you, Kathryn. That was great. And there was a request, actually. I was going to say, if you could share your slide deck with me.
Yeah,
if you want
of course
to do
I
that.
can.
I can pop it into the resources folder and share it with people. And the other request was around the template. Actually. I think Simon was asking if you are you happy to share your
was it the
one you sent
content audit?
to services? No, the one you sent to services.
Oh yeah. I can share that.
That'd be great.
I was just going to say it's not a template as in here is where you'd put this and this content. It was more the content in a Word document and we sent them that as a template for them to draft the content, if that makes a difference to whoever wanted it.
Okay, yeah, so it might not be a template in that sense.
Yeah, it was me that asked. That wasn't, I guess I kind of thought there'd be like a prescribed set of questions that you asked them, perhaps. But no, that's
I think that might be the next phase, because we're still struggling to get content out of people.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that part. Not.
I am wondering about a future session. You reminded me actually when you said that, Kathryn, that maybe a future session on how do you work with service teams, stroke get stuff you need from them, stroke work with them, might be an interesting session.
I'd be really keen to find out what other people are doing. Yeah.
Me too.
Okay. Noted for future meetup. Cool. Ben, hello.
Hey.
Does
Kathryn need to stop sharing for me to start sharing, or does me sharing just take over?
I think you probably take over, but Kathryn's stopped. There you go.
Okay, I presume you can see care and support there?
Yep.
Okay, so this is going to test my memory a bit because I don't work for Dumfries and Galloway, though I used to. I'm not just making it up. So I worked on this section earlier this year. This process was actually quite different to what Kathryn's just been talking about. So this was done as part of a whole site digital transformation program. So it was kind of done in weeks. And so a lot of the things that Kathryn was talking about, we didn't do, not because we didn't want to do it, just because we didn't have user researchers or we didn't have time. So the sort of work that I did on this was largely based on data auditing, my knowledge of the area, talking to stakeholders, but there was very little talking to people, which ideally you would do, but we didn't. So this is, I went back on the Wayback Machine because I didn't even have any screenshots of what it used to look like. So this is a screenshot from what this section used to look like. So I think a couple of things to bear in mind. So obviously this is the Scottish Council, and social care in Scotland is different to social care in England and Wales, which I found out. So this is basically what it looked like before. In terms of what I did do, so this is just similar to what Kathryn did. This was the audit that I did in terms of just trying to work out where people were going. And then this is just my Miro board that I worked on in terms of what the previous IA was and then how I break it down. There's a few things that are different to what Kathryn presented. So this isn't adult social care. This is care. So I think I'm right in saying what Kathryn was presenting was specifically for adults, but this includes children, young people and families. And it also includes health, which health for everybody, not just health for adults as well. And that kind of splitting actually is something that does come up a lot. So I'm working at Luton at the moment with my colleague Steph, and we were talking yesterday about how we may structure the site. And one of the areas we've been thinking about is whether you take out all of the children's and families content away from social care, because there isn't a children and young people section, but here we included it all in there. So we did debate doing that here, where we would have taken all of the information about children's social care and health and separating it out. But for various reasons, we didn't do that. So that's partly why, if I show you what it looks like now, so that's partly why it's called social care and health, because it is, I think Kathryn's section was called adults and health maybe, but this is social care and health because it's for everybody. The health, so I think previously it was called care and support, yeah. So adding the word health in was deliberate because what we were trying to do, so if I show you this, so this is NHS Dumfries and Galloway, and this is Dumfries and Galloway Health and Social Care Partnership. And so, again, I don't know how different this is to England and Wales, but in Scotland, one of the things that had happened is the way that social care was being delivered was technically not by the council, it was by the Dumfries and Galloway Health and Social Care Partnership, and all of their staff worked for that partnership. And when they would show badges to people, that's what it would say. It wouldn't say Dumfries and Galloway Council. And so we had to think about how we kind of signposted this content, because we had to try and start thinking about explaining the relationship between the NHS, the council, and this partnership, because all of the people that might turn up at your door, this is what it would say. However, this website was not great in terms of, we didn't really want to signpost it too much. But what we did try and do is signpost this content. So this is NHS, and what they were keen to do, and what I was keen to do as well, is to kind of signpost some of the NHS services that were available, because we didn't talk about it at all. So I think what I'll do is just go through this and talk about how I kind of restructured it. So similar, I think Kathryn said this point as well. One of the really obvious things that was missing, which seems extraordinary really, but it was missing, was there was hardly anything about assessments, eligibility, and charges and finance, which seem to be very obvious areas that we should be talking about. Part of the reason that wasn't there in conversations with the services, it was, I think, because all of their assessments were done by phone, and still are done by phone. So if you go to social care support, if I show you under assessments, you'll see request an assessment here. Literally, it's that. And that, so we obviously were proposing a digital solution, but for various reasons, which I can't actually remember why, they wanted just to stick with, they wanted people to phone them. And the reason I'm mentioning that is partly because a lot of the conversation they said about eligibility and charging was done on the phone call. But my sort of comeback to that really was that we should also still be allowing people to find this information out, because that, obviously that phone number wasn't staffed at the weekends and it wasn't staffed in the evenings. So if you were trying to find out stuff at the weekend or the evening, you wouldn't be able to, because there was nothing about who was eligible and how to like who, you know, how you do a financial assessment. So if I just go through this a bit here, yeah, again, I started really by just saying what the word social care means. So social care is the name given to support or services that people over 16 to help them live as independently as possible. Then it introduces this Dumfries and Galloway Health and Social Care Partnership. So to deliver social care services, we work with NHS Dumfries and third sector Dumfries and Galloway, which it kind of does do on this site here. So you can see it's got NHS Dumfries and third sector. It doesn't really go into much beyond that, but the reason, as I say, that was there is just if anybody was trying to find out information about care, it starts to introduce the fact that this partnership is how care is delivered in Dumfries and Galloway. And then again, this is the difference in Scotland. It says social care in Scotland is delivered under self-directed support legislation. So basically, again, I don't really know how much this differs to England and Wales, but in Scotland, everyone can arrange their own support, and there's like 4 options. And this term self-directed support is like a national way of deciding how you want to receive your support, that all Scottish councils have to have, because it's like national Scottish legislation about how they receive it. So it then goes on to that. And then, yeah, requested assessment. So it says you may first want to read our eligibility and charging. So again, that really didn't do that before. So it's trying to bring in eligibility and then charging before, if you want to know that before you try and have an assessment. Again, it talks about what happens during an assessment. And then if you're not eligible. And then, so this is a guide, as I'm sure you can tell. And then this is basically what happens after your assessment. So that's assessments. Again, this is ordered in terms of sort of importance. Eligibility. So again, this talks about who's eligible and who's not, and then charges. So charging, and again, charging in Scotland is different to England and Wales because everyone is entitled to free personal care. So again, that wasn't really talked about very much. So it talks about personal care here and about the charging policies in Scotland. And then about financial assessments, about what they involve. Again, none of this was here before, and how to get a financial assessment. And then this self-directed support, direct payments and personal assistance is what I just linked to before. So it talks about what direct payments are and how to employ your own personal assistant. Again, there wasn't really much here on that. So that's social care and support. One thing I probably is worth mentioning as well, though, you'll notice there's a huge difference between what I'm showing you and what Kathryn showed you in terms of the way the content is designed. So this is purely transactional. The way that Kathryn designed their section was it was done for a subsite and it was very visual using imagery. None of that is here. Yeah, it's quite interesting what Kathryn was showing because obviously that came from what users were telling them they wanted. This is very much based on your standard transactional model that LGD supports through guides. So there's no subsites in here. And it's very much pointing people through to completing a task. So it'd be interesting after I finish to see what people think about the difference between this approach versus that more visual subsite approach. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that because it's a very obvious difference. So this area is supporting your home. So there's quite a few directories in here. So I think one of the other differences, the way that Kathryn showed the directories, I think you had one directory to rule them all with lots of filters, whereas within here, I built lots of individual directories. So this, for instance, is an approved care providers directory. So the facets are the areas, and then these are all of the places that these are council approved care providers in the region. So, but that's an individual directory. There's also all of these as well. So there's this, because it's health as well, it's more broad. So this is a free period products directory. So again, these are all of the places within the district that you can pick up free period products. This is a care home directory. So again, this is all of the places within the region where you can find care homes. Day centres. So this sits within this section, getting out and about. So one of the things I'd noticed was in terms of things to do, there was a lot of content, but it wasn't in this section. It's kind of quite disparate. So things like blue badge permits, free bus travel, parking bays for disabled people, free train, bus, coach travel if you're blind, free bus travel if you're over 60. That was all split across the site, but there was no one place it was found. So I created this getting out and about section, which included a couple of directories as well. So this is activity and resource centres. So these are places for people with learning disabilities to go, and there's 6 of those. And then there's also day centres. So this is for people, old people and people with dementia. So these are places that you can go to get sort of support, meals and things like that. So that sits within getting out and about. And then, as I mentioned, all of these sections sit elsewhere, but I've brought them all together. So if you are looking for things to do and activities, it's all here. Health and well-being. So yeah, this is health and well-being more generally, and then there's links out to NHS. So I tried to find NHS because there was things like you could self-refer to NHS services, but we just weren't talking about it. So I tried to find NHS things that you can self-refer to from a health and well-being point of view. Children, young people and families. So yeah, this was child protection, fostering, things like that. Keeping people safe. So yeah, a bit like, I think Kathryn mentioned this, we didn't call it safeguarding, we called it keeping people safe because it was a bit less kind of jargony. So this was adult and child protection. And then finally care homes. So this was residential care homes and the care home directory, which I've already showed you. So this was about how to get an assessment for residential care homes. So yeah, that is a whistle-stop tour of what I did. It was done way quicker than I think Kathryn's project was done. Not because I want, as I say, not because I wanted to do it that quickly. It's just because of the sort of parameters of, how quickly we had to do it. What I also don't know is because I then left, and so I couldn't tell you how this is performed in terms of compared to this. One thing I was just going to show you as well, if I can just move this out of the way. So this was kind of one of the issues as well. This was the request out for social care page before. It did have this PDF.
Can you bump the zoom up? I think if you hover, there looks like there's a way to make the image a bit bigger. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the screenshot, so it looks a bit rubbish. But basically, the customer journey before was just taking people round and round in circles, because it was basically taking you to all these pages, and all they did was bring you back here. So in terms of trying to get all of these things, it was just sending you in loops, and also had this PDF form which we got rid of. So yeah, I think it is different to what Kathryn showed because it's broader than the adult side of it. And obviously, as I mentioned, this was very transactional. So I don't really know how this has gone down, but it matches the rest of the site in terms of the look and feel. There's very few sections on this site that do use subsites. I think fostering is one, maybe leisure centres is another, but beyond that, they all do look and feel very similar. So yeah, that is really, I'm just conscious it's 5:2, so I better stop talking. But that is basically what we did. So it is different because it's Scottish, and it's different because it's transactional, and it's different because it's health and social care as well. But happy in the next couple of minutes if everyone does have any questions on that. If I can remember what I did, I can answer them.
Well, I was going to say, Ben, well done for remembering, because it was quite a long time ago, and thank you for stepping up. While people, if you've got a question, just if you know how to raise your hand, as in the React bit, or you can just come and unmute. So we've got Nova. I had one question for you, Ben, which was you mentioned the difference, like in terms of imagery and obviously the scope of this section. The other thing I noticed, and maybe it's because of using this landing page approach, is the headings. So the language that Kathryn were going down was very much, it seemed to me quite action based for a lot of pages. And this has obviously got the top tasks at the top, but the headings below are less like that. They're more sort of descriptive, if you like. I don't know if you have the view.
I mean, that's basically how the whole site is built. So these top tasks tend to be action based, like find, renew, apply, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And then the sections, like if I showed you other sections, like this is housing, it isn't like I am a landlord, or what to do if you're a landlord, or I am a homeowner, or I am homeless. Like it is literally just the subject. But I guess if I go back to social care, if you go into social care support, this is where the language changes. So how we provide request and assessment after your assessment. So I suppose those guide titles are more action based, but the way that the whole site, because I guess what I'm saying is this section is not different to all of the other sections. If you move through the site from housing to social care to transport, it would be consistent the way it's done. The approach that Kathryn's team took, I don't know the rest of their site, but they took a different approach to adult social care. So the design, the build, the language is different. This isn't different. It's the same.
Thanks, Ben.
Not that that approach is wrong, but it's different the way that we approach this.
Yeah. Nova, did you want to come in? You had your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a silly question. There were you've got the 6 calls to action at the top, or top tasks. I guess that's the difference. They're top tasks, but we were basically told to only use 3 of those on any page. But so is there like a standard number that's the general norm? 6. Yeah, if they're on a mobile, that would seem to kind of stack quite far down the page. But then I guess if they're top tasks, that's then. But is there a standard number?
I guess the standard number is what you want the standard number to be. I
Right,
would
you can
say
choose.
no. Like when we're doing this work at Luton, we'll agree what we think is ideal. I'm not necessarily saying 6 is like brilliant. I wouldn't probably
Yeah.
do more than 6, but
No.
I guess because a lot of this, so this is unusual. There's so many directories in this section that I
Yeah,
wanted
true.
to, like, I think 5 of the 6 are directories. And so I wanted to bring them up to the top because a lot of
Yeah.
people are just trying to find a thing. I want to find a care home. I want to find a,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. So that's why there's 6. There's not many sections with that many, but yeah, you're right. They would stack on mobile, but I guess they're the key tasks. So
Yeah, true.
I guess
True.
I would probably look at heat mapping and see how much people engage with them, but I
Yeah.
don't think there is a
Right.
standard number, no.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks anyway.
Any other questions for Ben? Anyone want to jump in? Or any reflections on what Ben said?
I guess the main difference is it's just there's 2 very different approaches to do social health in terms of the approach that Blackburn did and this did, and I guess it's which one you find is easier, better, residents respond to more. I guess I don't really know because I haven't been there to analyze it.
Yeah, yeah, and 2 brilliant examples, as you said, like really quite different, and obviously different contexts as well. So it's really nice to see the 2 side by side.